Dr. Kim Mina wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the government research facility. The evening air felt cool against her skin after spending 12 hours in the sterile laboratory studying alien tissue samples that had arrived from a recent meteor crash. Her security badge swayed as she walked toward her car, the weight of classified knowledge heavy on her shoulders. The parking lot stretched before her, mostly empty except for a few scattered vehicles under the flickering streetlights. She was looking forward to a quiet dinner and maybe catching up on some reading about interstellar biology theories. But as she approached her car, something caught her attention. A small figure wandered between the parked cars, moving in a nod, almost robotic pattern. Mina squinted through the growing darkness and realized it was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wearing a simple blue dress that seemed to shimmer strangely under the artificial lights. The child moved with mechanical precision, her steps perfectly measured, her head turning at exact angles as if she was scanning the area. This wasn't how lost children usually behaved. Most would be crying, calling for their parents, or at least showing some sign of distress. Mina's scientific curiosity kicked in alongside her natural compassion. She approached slowly, not wanting to startle the girl. "Hello there," Mina called, softly, keeping her voice gentle and non-threatening. "Are you lost, sweetie?" The girl stopped walking and turned toward her with movements that seemed too fluid, too controlled. Her eyes were an unusual shade of silver blue, and they seemed to reflect the streetlight in a way that human eyes shouldn't. "Assistance required," the girl said in a voice that sounded almost musical but strangely flat. "Location of family unit unknown." Mina crouched down to the child's level, noting how the girl's breathing seemed perfectly rhythmic, too perfect for a distressed child. Her years of studying non-human biological patterns had taught her to notice details that others might miss. "What's your name, honey? Do you remember where you live?" "Designation and clear," the girl replied, tilting her head at a precise 45-degree angle. "Home coordinates. Not accessible through current systems." The way she spoke sent chills down Mina's spine. This wasn't how any human child talked, not even a very intelligent one. The girl's syntax was off, like she was translating thoughts from another language or maybe another way of thinking entirely. "Okay, let's get you some help," Mina said, reaching slowly for her phone. "I'm going to call someone who can help us find your family." Before she could dial, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed across the parking lot. 2 police officers approached with aggressive strides, their flashlights cutting through the darkness and landing directly on Mina's face. "Mom, step away from the child immediately," Officer Park Jinwoo commanded, his voice sharp and authoritative. His partner, Officer Lee Dongyan, circled around to Mina's other side, effectively trapping her. Mina's heart sank as she recognized the look in their eyes. She had seen it too many times before. The immediate assumption of guilt, the way their hands moved instinctively toward their weapons, the aggressive posturing. They weren't seeing a doctor trying to help a lost child. They were seeing what their prejudices told them to see. "Officers, I'm Dr. Kim Mina," she said calmly, slowly reaching for her identification. "I work at the research facility here. I found this child wandering alone and was trying to help her. Keep your hands where we can see them." Jinwoo snapped, his hand moving to his handcuffs. "We received a call about suspicious activity involving a child. Someone reported seeing an adult approaching a minor in the parking lot." Mina's mind raced. Who could have called them? The parking lot had been empty when she arrived, and she had only been talking to the girl for a few minutes. "Look, there's been a misunderstanding," Mina said, her voice remaining steady despite her rising anxiety. "I have government clearance. I'm a xenobiologist with the Department of Save the Stories, lady." Dongyan interrupted, pulling out his own handcuffs. "You can explain everything down at the station." The little girl watched the interaction with those strange silver eyes, her expression unnaturally calm for a child witnessing unrest. She didn't cry or call out for help. She just stood there, observing, as if she was studying their behavior for some unknown purpose. "Officers, please." Mina tried again, her professional training keeping her voice level. "I have identification that will verify everything I'm telling you. This child needs help. And I believe there's something unusual about her situation that requires special attention." But Jinwoo was already moving forward with the handcuffs, his mind made up from the moment he saw her. "Turn round and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for suspicious activity involving a minor." As the cold metal clicked round her wrists, Mina looked back at the strange little girl one more time. The child's eyes seemed to glow faintly in the streetlight, and for just a moment, Mina could have sworn she saw something that looked almost like circuitry beneath the girl's skin. Something was very wrong here, and these officers were about to make a mistake that could have consequences far beyond what any of them could imagine. The plastic seat of the patrol car felt cold against Mina's back as she pressed her face against the window, watching the scene unfold outside. Her hands were still cuffed behind her, but her mind was racing with scientific observations that made her pulse quicken with both excitement and fear. The little girl stood exactly where they had left her, but now that Mina could observe without the officers blocking her view, she noticed things that made her stomach drop. The child wasn't fidgeting, wasn't looking round nervously, wasn't doing any of the hundreds of small, unconscious movements that humans make when they're alone and uncertain. Instead, she stood perfectly still, like a statue, her head tilted at precisely the same angle for over 3 minutes. No human child could maintain such perfect posture without moving. Even trained soldiers shifted their weight, blinked irregularly, or made tiny adjustments to their stance. Officers. Mina called through the partially open window, trying to keep her voice calm despite the urgency building in her chest. "You need to look at her breathing pattern." Park Jinwoo was filling out paperwork on his tablet, barely glancing up. "Lady, we've got this under control. Child Services is on their way." But Mina watched in growing alarm as the girl's chest rose and fell in a mechanical rhythm, one breath every 4 seconds. Exactly like clockwork, the rise and fall was the same depth each time, the same duration. Humans didn't breathe like that, especially not frightened children who should be gulping air or holding their breath in fear. Then the girl's eyes began to glow. It started as just a faint shimmer, like light reflecting off water, but gradually intensified to a soft silver luminescence that seemed to come from within her pupils. The glow pulsed in a steady pattern, 3 quick flashes followed by 2 longer ones, repeating endlessly. "Do you see that?" Mina pressed her face harder against the glass. "Her eyes are glowing." "That's not normal human physiology, Officer Lee." Dong-Yan glanced over and chuckled. "It's just the street light reflecting off her eyes, Doc. Kids have shiny eyes." But as Mina watched, the girl began to speak. And the words that came out made her blood run cold. "Stellar coordinates 47.293 by 12.847. The child said in a voice that carried perfectly across the parking lot, despite being spoken in what seemed like a normal tone. "Navigation systems offline. Communication requires recalibration. Solar energy reserves at 23% capacity." The girl paused, turned her head exactly 90 degrees to face a different direction, then continued, biological camouflage holding at 87% efficiency. "Minor degradation in epidermal projection system detected." Dong-Yan was still chuckling. "See, Kids watch too much sci-fi these days. Probably saw some space movie and she's acting it out. But Mina's xenobiology training kicked into high gear as she noticed more impossible details. The girl's skin wasn't just shimmering anymore. In the right light, she could see faint geometric patterns moving beneath the surface, like circuit boards made of light flowing through her arms and face. "Listen to me," Mina said, her voice taking on the authority she used when briefing government officials. "I've spent 10 years studying non-terrestrial biological samples. That child is exhibiting classic signs of adaptive camouflage technology." The girl suddenly stopped talking and turned to look directly at the patrol car. Her silver eyes locked onto Mina's through the window, and for a moment, Mina felt like she was being scanned, analyzed, evaluated by some incredibly advanced intelligence. Then the girl smiled, but it wasn't a human smile. Her lips curved upward in a perfect arc, holding the expression for exactly 5 seconds before returning to neutral. No human smiled like that. Especially not a lost, frightened child. "Scanning complete," the girl said, though her lips barely moved. "Target individual identified. Dr. Kim Mina. Xenobiologist, security clearance level 9. Biological expertise confirmed. Assistance probability calculated at 90.7%, Minas." Heart hammered against ribs. The girl knew her name, knew her clearance level, knew details that weren't public information. This was impossible unless the child had access to government databases, which meant either she was some kind of advanced android or something even more extraordinary. "She just said my name." Mina shouted to the officers, who were now chatting casually about their weekend plans. "She knows my security clearance. How could a lost child know classified information?" Park Jinwoo sighed and walked over to the car. "Look, Doctor, whatever your name is, you're clearly having some kind of episode. Kids are smart these days. Maybe she heard your name when you introduced yourself." But Mina knew she hadn't mentioned her security clearance or her full title. The girl had somehow accessed information that was encrypted in government systems. As if responding to her thoughts, the girl's eyes flashed brighter, and she began reciting a string of numbers and letters that made Mina's blood freeze. They were coordinates, but not Earth coordinates. They were the kind of stellar positioning data used in deep space navigation, the kind she had only seen in theoretical papers about interstellar travel. "Emergency beacon activation required," the girl continued, her voice now carrying a slight electronic distortion. "Home vessel location, outer system, third orbital path, estimated rescue time. 127 Earth hours if signal successfully transmitted." The patterns under her skin grew brighter, pulsing in complex sequences that looked like some kind of internal communication system trying to establish contact with something far away. Mina realized with growing terror that they weren't dealing with a lost child at all. They were looking at humanity's first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. And these two officers with their prejudices and dismissive attitudes were about to turn it into a disaster that would affect the entire human race. "Officers, please," she called out one more time, her voice cracking with desperation. "Look at her skin. Look at her eyes. This isn't a human child, and if we don't handle this correctly, we could be making the biggest mistake in human history." But they weren't listening, and time was running out. The distant hum of engines cut through the quiet evening air like a knife. Mina looked up from the patrol car window, her heart racing as she spotted lights approaching from multiple directions. What started as tiny dots on the horizon quickly grew into a convoy of black vehicles moving with military precision. The first SUV rounded the corner of the parking lot at exactly 8:03 p.m., followed by 3 more identical vehicles that spread out in a perfect tactical formation. Their headlights swept across the area like searchlights, and Mina could see the silhouettes of multiple occupants in each vehicle. Officer Park Jin-woo looked up from his paperwork, confusion written across his face. What the hell is this about? The SUVs came to simultaneous stops, their engines cutting off in perfect unison. For a moment, the parking lot fell completely silent except for the soft clicking of cooling engines. Then, car doors opened like clockwork, and figures in dark suits emerged with the kind of coordinated movement that only came from years of specialized training. Men counted at least 12 agents, all wearing identical black suits with small communication devices in their ears. They moved like a well-oiled machine, some taking defensive positions round the perimeter while others approached the patrol car with purposeful strides. The lead agent was a tall Korean man with sharp features and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His suit was perfectly pressed, his movements confident and controlled. As he walked toward the patrol car, Mina noticed a small silver badge on his lapel that she recognized from her security briefings. Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs officers. The lead agent called out, his voice carrying absolute authority. "I'm Agent Cho Hyun-woo, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. You are to release Dr. Kim Minna immediately." Park Jin-woo stood up from his tablet, his hand instinctively moving toward his weapon. "Hold on there, buddy. We don't know who you are. And this woman is under arrest for suspicious activity involving a minor." Agent Cho reached into his jacket and pulled out a leather credential case, flipping it open to reveal a badge and ID that made Park's eyes widen. The badge was unlike anything Minna had seen before. It seemed to shimmer with an internal light, and the department seal included symbols that definitely weren't from any Earth government she knew about. "Dr. Kim holds level 9 xenological clearance," Agent Cho said, his voice cutting through the evening air like steel. "She has security authorization higher than your police chief, your mayor, and probably your governor. The child you think you are protecting is the reason we're here." Behind Agent Cho, other agents were setting up some kind of advanced scanning equipment. Minna could see devices that looked like nothing in any government catalog she'd ever seen. Silver cylinders that hummed with energy and projected holographic displays into the air. Officer Lee Dong-yeon laughed nervously. "Come on, this is getting ridiculous. It's just a lost kid. We're waiting for a child services to pick her up. That's not a human child," Agent Cho said flatly, pointing toward the little girl who still stood motionless in the exact same spot. "That's a juvenile member of an extraterrestrial species that has been in communication with our government for the past 3 months." As if on cue, the girl's eyes flashed brighter with that silver light, and she turned to face the agents. Her voice carried across the parking lot with impossible clarity. Recognition confirmed. Authority figures identified. Dr. Kim Minna's detention was not part of calculated scenario. Assistance request stands. Park and Dong-yeon stared at the child, their faces going pale as they realized that her lips had barely moved, but her voice had been perfectly clear from 50 feet away. Agent Cho's radio crackled to life with a voice that sounded like it was coming from very high up the chain of command. "Agent Cho, this is Director Nam. Are you on scene?" "Affirmative." "Director, subject is secure, but we have a situation." Local officers arrested Dr. Kim before she could make contact. "Understood. Priority 1 is establishing communication with the subject. Priority 2 is damage control. The subject's family is monitoring from orbit, and they're not happy about their child being in what they perceive as a hostile situation." Mina's blood ran cold from orbit. That meant there was a spacecraft, probably invisible to human detection. Systems watching everything that was happening right now. Officer Park's radio suddenly erupted with static. Then a voice neither officer recognized came through crystal clear. "All units, this is Federal Command override. Release the detained scientist immediately. This is a matter of planetary security. Acknowledge. Park fumbled for his radio. UH, this is Unit 47. We don't recognize your authority. We need to verify. Through our chain of command. Officer Park, the voice on the radio continued. Your chief has been briefed. Your captain has been briefed. Your sheriff has been briefed. Every law enforcement authority in your county has been notified that you are interfering with the federal xenological operation. Release Dr. Kim now. Or face charges of obstruction of an extraterrestrial diplomatic mission. The words extraterrestrial diplomatic mission hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Dongyon's hand trembled as he reached for his keys to unlock Mina's handcuffs. Agent Cho stepped closer to the patrol car, his expression serious but not unkind. Dr. Kim, we apologize for the delay. The subject specifically requested you by name. She accessed our personnel databases and identified you as the most qualified human to assist with her situation. As the handcuffs came off, Mina rubbed her wrists and looked toward the little girl, who was now surrounded by agents with scanning equipment. The devices were showing readings that made no sense, energy signatures that spiked off there. Scales, biological readings that fluctuated between human and something completely unknown. How long has she been here? Mina asked, stepping out of the patrol car. We lost track of her 3 days ago when her family's scout ship experienced technical difficulties, Agent Cho replied. They've been in a controlled orbit, waiting for her to make contact with someone who could help. When she went missing, they gave us 72 hours to find her before they would take more direct action. Mina looked up at the dark sky, knowing that, somewhere up there, beings with technology beyond human understanding were watching and waiting. The little girl wasn't just lost. She was the key to humanity's first real contact with an alien civilization, and racist cops had almost destroyed everything. The underground facility felt like stepping into the future. Mina followed Agent Cho through corridors lined with technology she had only dreamed about in her research papers. Walls displayed holographic star maps showing solar systems she didn't recognize. And the air hummed with the quiet energy of machines that seemed to bend the laws of physics. This place has been operational for 6 months. Agent Cho explained as they walked past laboratories where scientists in hazmat suits studied materials that glowed with their own internal light. Ever since we made first contact with hands, people, we've been preparing for this moment. They stopped at a massive blast door that required Agent Cho to place his palm on a scanner that projected a beam of blue light across his entire hand. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a room that took Mina's breath away. The observation chamber was like something from a science fiction movie. One wall was completely transparent, showing the room beyond where Han sat on what looked like a medical examination table. But the child looked nothing like she had in the parking lot. Her disguise was filling rapidly now. The human appearance flickered like a broken hologram, revealing glimpses of her true form underneath. Her skin had a subtle blue-silver tint, and intricate patterns of light moved beneath the surface like living tattoos. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, completely silver, and they seemed to hold an intelligence far beyond her apparent age. My God, Mina whispered, pressing her hand against the observation window. She's beautiful. Director Nam Sujin stepped up beside her. A woman in her 50s with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much. Her species calls themselves, though, Keth. They're explorers, scientists, much like us but thousands of years more advanced. Han's parents were leading a diplomatic mission to make official first contact when their scout ship was damaged by a solar flare on the monitoring screens. Round the room, Mina could see readings that made her scientist's heart race. Han's body temperature was perfectly stable at 96.2 degrees. Her heart rate was exactly 60 beats per minute, and her brain activity showed patterns unlike anything in human medicine. The biomimetic technology is incredible, Agent Cho continued, pointing to another screen showing energy readings. It's not just visual camouflage. It actually restructures her cellular composition to mimic human biology. But the system is designed for short-term use, maybe a few hours at most. Director Nam pulled up a holographic display showing a timeline. She's been maintaining the disguise for 3 days straight. The strain is enormous. If it fails completely, while she's still on Earth's surface, the shock could kill her. Mina studied the readings more carefully, her xenobiology training helping her interpret the alien data. Her energy levels are dropping. She's essentially been running a marathon for 72 hours straight, which is why she sought you out, Director Nam said, turning to face Mina directly. She accessed our personnel files through our own computer systems. Your research on adaptive biology and interspecies communication made you the obvious choice to help her. Agent Cho activated another display showing surveillance footage from the parking lot. Watch this carefully. She didn't just wander into that area randomly. She calculated your daily routine, knew what time you'd be leaving the facility, and positioned herself exactly where you'd find her. The footage showed Han moving through the parking lot with purpose, checking a device that looked like a small crystal in her palm. The device projected tiny holographic numbers that changed as she moved, like a GPS system guiding her to the exact spot where she'd encounter Mina. She's been trying to make contact for 2 days, Director Nam explained, but every time she approached a human, her appearance triggered fear or suspicion. Children ran away screaming. Adults called the police. She learned that she needed to find someone with the right knowledge and compassion to help her. Through the observation window, Mina watched Han sitting quietly on the examination table. Despite all the advanced technology surrounding them, the child looked small and vulnerable. Her true form was more delicate than her human disguise had suggested, with longer limbs and fingers that moved with an almost musical grace. What about her parents? Mina asked. Are they still in orbit? Agent Cho nodded grimly. Their ship is cloaked about 200 miles above us. We've been in communication through quantum entanglement transmitters. They're not happy about their daughter's situation. A new voice crackled over the facility's communication system, speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with electronic tones. The translation came through speakers a moment later in a stern, parental voice that transcended species, barriers, human authorities. Our offspring remains in distress. Your species has shown aggression toward our child and toward the helper human she selected. We require immediate resolution, or we will retrieve our offspring through alternative methods. Director Nam's face went pale. Alternative methods means they teleport her directly to their ship, which would likely kill her in her current weekend state. The energy transfer would be too much for our failing biomimetic system to handle. Min looked at the readings again, then at Han through the window. The child's silver eyes met hers through the glass, and for a moment, Mina felt a connection that went beyond language or species. It was the universal look of a frightened child who needed help. She's not just scared, Mina realized. She's homesick. She's been trying to get home for 3 days, but she's too weak to safely make the journey to their ship. Agent Cho pulled up another display showing the Keth vessel's position. Their technology is incredible, but they're extremely protective of their young. In their culture, any threat to a child is considered an act of war. Those officers' treatment of you, combined with Han's obvious distress, has them preparing for the worst-case scenario. Which would be? Mina asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Complete withdrawal from any diplomatic contact with humanity. Director Nam said quietly. They'd leave Earth. Mark our solar system as hostile, and we'd lose our chance at joining the galactic community, all because the racist cops couldn't see past their own prejudices. Mina pressed her hand harder against the observation window. Let me talk to her. I've spent my whole career preparing for this moment. If she specifically chose me to help her, then maybe I can find a way to bridge the gap between our species. Through the glass, Han's eyes brightened slightly, as if she understood what Mina was saying. The patterns of light beneath her skin pulsed in what almost looked like a hopeful rhythm. The future of humanity's place in the universe was sitting in that room. Disguised as a lost child, time was running out. The moment Mina stepped into the containment room, Han's silver eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. The child's biomimetic disguise flickered like a failing television signal, revealing glimpses of her true ethereal form underneath the human facade. "Hello, Han," Mina said softly, approaching slowly with her hands visible. "My name is Mina. I understand you've been looking for me." Han's head tilted. At that precise angle Mina had noticed before, but now she understood it was natural body language for our species. "Dr. Kim Mina, xenobiologist, security level 9, Han replied, her voice carrying that musical quality that seemed to resonate in frequencies beyond human hearing. Assistance probability calculated at 94.7%. Current status, biomimetic. Failure imminent. Mina knelt down to Han's eye level, just as she had in the parking lot. "I know you're scared and tired. You've been working so hard to maintain your disguise. Can you tell me about your family?" The patterns of light beneath Han's skin pulsed brighter, and suddenly the air around them shimmered. A holographic projection materialized, showing two tall, graceful beings standing inside what looked like a spacecraft's bridge. They had the same silver eyes as Han, the same delicate features. But their presence radiated an ancient wisdom that made Mina feel like she was in the presence of living gods. "Parent units," Han said, her voice gaining strength. "Mother Leader Kia and Father Navigator Jordan. They monitor from Sky Vessel." The holographic figures began to speak in their musical language, and Han translated with the rapid processing power of her advanced mind. They express gratitude for helper Mina's compassion toward offspring. They observe human authorities showing aggression toward helper Mina, but helper Mina still chose to provide assistance despite personal danger. Mina felt tears welling up in her eyes as she realized the profound weight of this moment. Tell them I couldn't do anything else. Any decent person would help a lost child, no matter where the child came from. Han's translation caused both alien parents to step forward in their holographic form. Father Navigator Joran spoke directly to Mina through Han's translation. "This response demonstrates why our offspring selected you, Dr. Kim Mina. Your species shows great potential for growth and compassion." The room suddenly filled with a soft, chimming sound, and Director Nam's voice came through the intercom. "Dr. Kim, we're detecting massive energy signatures from their ship. They're preparing to do something." Through the hologram, Mother Leader Kira gestured towards something off-screen, and the image expanded to show the interior of their vessel. The technology was breathtaking. Walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. Control panels that responded to thought rather than touch, and a viewport that showed Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. "They're not preparing weapons," Mina realized, studying the energy patterns Han was showing her through the holographic display. "They're powering up their medical systems. They want to heal Han. But they're afraid the energy transfer might be too much for her in her current state." Han nodded, her disguise flickering more rapidly now. Biomimetic failure in approximately 12 Earth minutes. Energy levels at critical minimum. Transport to Sky Vessel requires 94% power surge. Current status cannot survive transfer. Mina's mind raced through everything she knew about energy transfer and biological systems. What if we could gradually reduce the biomimetic system's power draw? Instead of a sudden shutdown, we could create a controlled failure that would preserve your energy for transport. Han's eyes brightened with hope. Possibility exists. Helpamina's knowledge of biological adaptation could facilitate gradual system shutdown. Parent units express willingness to attempt this procedure. Working together, Mina and Han spent the next hour in careful collaboration. Using her understanding of adaptive biology, Mina helped Han consciously control her biomimetic system, slowly allowing her true form to emerge while conserving the energy needed for transport to her. Families shipped out as Han's human disguise faded away completely, revealing her true alien beauty. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. "They're preparing to transport," Agent Joe announced over the intercom. "All personnel, clear the containment room." But Mina stayed with Han as the young alien's form began to glow with an internal light. "Thank you, Helpamina," Han said, her voice now carrying harmonics that were clearly not human. "Your kindness will be remembered by all Keth for generations. We will return to share knowledge and friendship with your species." The transport beam that descended from the ceiling was unlike anything in human technology. It was gentle, warm, and filled with the same musical tones that characterize Keth language. As Han's form began to dissolve into points of light, she smiled at Mina with an expression of pure gratitude. 6 months later, Mina stood on the steps of the United Nations building in New York, wearing the ceremonial robes of Earth's first xenological ambassador. Behind her, a massive crowd had gathered to witness the historic moment as the Keth delegation ship descended from the clouds in broad daylight for the first time. In the crowd, she spotted officers Park Jin-woo and Lee Dong-yeon, their faces pale with the realization of how close they had come to destroying humanity's future. They were part of the mandatory attendance for all law enforcement personnel, required to witness the signing of the first interstellar peace treaty in human history. As the Keth ship landed gracefully on the UN Plaza, its crystal hull reflecting the sunlight like a prism, Han emerged first. She looked exactly as she had in the containment room, but now she wore robes that seemed to be woven from starlight itself. The Keth have decided to share their technology with humanity, Mina announced to the assembled crowd and the billions watching worldwide, not because of our weapons or our strength, but because one lost child found compassion when she needed it most. Han approached the podium with her parents flanking her, and when she spoke, her words were broadcast in every human language simultaneously through Keth translation technology. "Your species shows great promise. We have observed your capacity for both great cruelty and great kindness. We choose to nurture the kindness." As Helpamina nurtured compassion toward a frightened child in a parking lot, as the treaty was signed, opening the door to technologies that would revolutionize human civilization, Mina caught sight of the 2 officers who had tried to arrest her. They were forced to watch as the woman they had dismissed and criminalized became the bridge between humanity and the stars. The greatest irony was that their prejudice and ignorance had nearly cost humanity its future among the galactic community, while the compassion they had tried to punish became the very thing that earned humanity its place among the stars. From that day forward, whenever young Keth learned about other species, they would hear the story of Helpamina, the human who chose kindness over safety, and who showed that even when faced with injustice, the best of humanity would always choose to help a lost child find their way home. The end.